The Science and Engineering Alliance formed a student educational outreach program to help foster an interest in science among youth who are not readily exposed to the ever-changing technological environment we live in today. One way of achieving this was through a 2-day field trip to the National Aeronautics and Space Administration's, or NASA's, Kennedy Space Center in Orlando, Florida. The objective of the trip was to give 30 students from the town of Garner, North Carolina, a first-hand account of what actually takes place in the space program. The students would participate in a hands-on workshop and view the original IMAX film entitled The Dream is Alive, a one-of-a-kind presentation actually showing what's involved as astronauts train to go up in space. The students would also participate in a workshop on GLOBE, Global Learning Observation for the Benefit of the Environment, an international hands-on primary and secondary school-based science program. And what would a trip to Orlando, Florida be without a day of fun and recreation? All of this in the hope of awakening the mind of youngsters who could be the next Benjamin Banneker, Garrett Morgan, Ronald McNair, or Mae Jemison. The students stayed at the Holiday Inn Sunspree in Orlando. They had spectacular accommodations that were sure to delight both the young and old. The students arrived from Garner, North Carolina, and had a good night's sleep before embarking on their trip to the Kennedy Space Center. At 7 a.m. the next morning, the students met in the lobby of the hotel to go over last-minute details about the trip. Dr. Robert Shepard, founding executive director of the Science and Engineering Alliance, went over the day's scheduled events. The students then boarded a chartered bus for a 55-minute ride from the hotel to the Space Center. Anticipation among the students and parent chaperones was exceptionally high.
On this trip with a group of young people who I am convinced will be inspired to have a great appreciation for science and engineering and aeronautics, because a great deal of learning is exposure and beginning to set some goals and understand that they can achieve.
Are you excited about being down there in Florida?
Yes.
Okay. Is this your first time?
Yes, this is my first time going to places that I drove through. I'm looking to learn about the Hubble Space Telescope.
Oh, okay. Anything else?
And just about science.
Finally, the moment had arrived. The bus is now in view of the historical Kennedy Space Center. Large replicas of rocket ships loom in the distance. As the students made their way to the entrance, how could they ever imagine that they would walk the same grounds, tied to legendary names such as John Glenn, Alan Shepard, Buzz Aldrin, and countless others who worked on the Apollo 13, Space Shuttle Discovery, the Hubble Telescope, and the International Space Station. First on the agenda, a workshop led by Laura Colville, Education Information Specialist in NASA's Educator Resource Center. This is an interactive workshop designed to inform students about NASA and the space program.
Your head and all. There you go. Now, Kira's head is going to be the Earth. Don't worry, Kira, your head's not that big, okay? Now, in order to achieve orbit around the Earth, they have to travel at 17,500 miles an hour. Here's what happens. Gravity is still pulling them back towards the Earth, because if gravity wasn't present, they would fly off into space somewhere, and that doesn't happen. They continue to orbit the Earth. What's your name? Kenny? Kenny, do me a favor, step a little side from. I'm going to hold it so you're not going to spin for now. Try to get yourself to move in a circle on the platform. Okay. Smart man, he's using his hands. Okay, yeah, go ahead. Notice he's moving his arms in one direction, he's moving in the opposite direction. He's actually using Newton's third law of motion without him realizing it. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Nice job, Kenny. Now, I'm going to give you the gyroscope, Kenny. Gyroscopes are used for navigation in space, steering. So Kenny, go ahead and hold on to the brake handles. Hold it out straight in front of you and straight up. There you go. Now go ahead and tilt the wheel all the way over on its side. And straighten it back up. Tilt it all the way over on the other side now. Now straighten it back up. Notice nothing happened. You didn't go anywhere. Kenny, we got to add some momentum to your wheel. You can spin it pretty good. Now Kenny, go ahead and turn the wheel.
The workshop is both fun and informative. allowing the students to participate in activities that mimicked what astronauts and space technicians deal with on a daily basis.
Quentin has to do the same job in space now. So he's going to beat her time. He thinks, no problem. Here you go, Quentin. Right-handed, right? Okay. Same piece of wood, same type of screw. Nothing is different. Same screwdriver. Now, the rules in space are a little bit different. Rule number 1, you can't touch the floor because there's no floor in space. Okay, rule number 2 is now you can't touch the piece of wood with your hand or with the screwdriver because this is now the Hubble Space Telescope. He has to learn to use his tool. The only thing he can do is touch the screwdriver to the screw, and he's got to unscrew the screw from this piece of wood. So, Quentin, go ahead and give that a shot there. You can use 2 hands with a screwdriver if you want. Yeah, be a man. There you go. Motion applies everywhere in the universe. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So he pushes on it, it pushes back on him. But he's on a rotating platform. So the reaction sets it in motion and starts to spin.
This unique blend of science and creativity make for an atmosphere where learning is fun and rewarding. The students feel a sense of accomplishment, and that in turn builds self-confidence. After the workshop, the students went to the Kennedy Space Center's state-of-the-art IMAX theater, where they viewed The Dream is Alive. Filmed in cooperation of NASA by actual shuttle astronauts, the documentary gives you amazing views of the Earth from space. It depicted the day in the life of a shuttle astronaut and the constant rigor and challenges they face. After a lunch break, the students were back to the Educator Resource Center to participate in the Globe workshop sponsored by Science and Engineering Alliance. A hands-on school-based science and education program, Dr. Robert Ford led the workshop. The beauty of Globe is that students are able to conduct real scientific research. They ran tests to measure soil absorption and hydrology and saw how they could report their findings via the internet to the Globe Student Data Archive. They also witness how the data they submit is utilized by scientists worldwide and is helping create a greater understanding of the planet Earth. As the day at the Kennedy Space Center drew to a close, the students left with an improved understanding of science and how it relates to space and the environment. They have been challenged and enlightened. And after all of that science and technology, there had to be a day of fun. For what would a trip to Orlando be without a trip to the amusement park? Science as applied to our everyday life. Science, the pursuit of knowledge. Will one of the students on this trip someday be one of the first people to colonize Mars, join in the research efforts aboard the space station, or create new technology that makes the quality of life better for all of mankind? The answer to this and many other questions for the young people from the town of Garner, North Carolina, lies in the great possibilities that are always reserved for the future. The Science and Engineering Alliance hopes to continue the student educational outreach program to search for science and engineering talent and awaken the scientific mind.